Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and we begin tonight with the rising epidemic of violent crime in America. Now, this is an issue that was once confined to crime-ridden and impoverished inner-city neighborhoods, confined there by the Democrat politicians who control our major urban centers and have done for decades. These shootings and sexual assaults and flash mobs, store invasions have now become common in once peaceful suburban neighborhoods. This is a direct result of the destructive and naive defund the police and no cash bail policies of those very same Democrats. Yesterday, the intolerable crime problem hit home for the man running for governor of New York, Congressman Lee Zeldin, whose campaign platform emphasizes a return to law and order in the Empire State. He experienced the violent crime up close and personal. Two men shot right outside his home in a quiet Long Island neighborhood. His twin daughters were at home at the time of the shooting doing homework. A stray bullet landed within 10 yards of the girls. Now add to this the nightly recitation of horrific incidents in New York City, and well, you can understand why people are afraid. Even lifelong New Yorkers who've seen grittier days in Gotham, you know, the days before Rudy Giuliani was mayor, they're now reflecting on this recent crime crisis. Former Governor David Paterson, a Democrat, told WABC Radio in New York that for the first time in his life, New York City feels unsafe to him. It's no wonder. Things have gotten so bad that the Daily Mail reports on the pickpocket crime of a corpse. Yes, a man was run over by a truck in New York. That's bad enough. And while the dead body lay in the middle of the street, his wallet and possessions were stolen from him, while onlookers cheered. Oh yeah, but the real problem in these cities is the cops, right? Oh, actually, according to the Washington Post, the real problem in these cities is the cops and conservative media. That's right. A guy named Philip Bump, who seems strangely obsessed with talk radio and right-of-center TV networks like Salem News Channel, claims that the rise in violent crime is just made up by conservatives in the media for a campaign issue. Now, maybe Mr. Bump should actually look outside his window in Washington, D.C. This city is experiencing its 6th straight year of rising murder rates. 6 years in a row. But instead of actually reporting on the city in which he and his newspaper reside, the Washington Post, paper of record here in Washington. Now, Mr. Bump isn't focusing on Washington. He spends his time running interference for New York Democrats by attacking conservative news outlets. You know, I think he should go to one of the funerals of the victims of this violent crime. He should sit next to a grieving mother of a child cut down by a stray bullet and console her by saying, "I am so sorry that conservative talk radio did this to you. I'm so sorry that that conservative TV network did this to you. We're going to get them for this." So what's really behind this absurd claim that the rising violent crime concerns are just made up by Republicans and conservative media? Well, the latest polls leading up to the next month's midterm election gives us a bit of a clue. Crime ranked second in a new Monmouth poll. That's 72% of Americans saying it's an extremely or very important issue. This is second only to inflation in that Monmouth poll. The latest Rasmussen Report survey found that 33% of voters believe crime is a top issue, and 62% believe crime is getting worse. So naturally, it's the last thing Democrats want to talk about, considering they're the champions of defund the police. They're on the record saying so. This was their movement. They painted murals in the streets of all of these cities saying, "Black Lives Matter, defund the police." So what are they going to do? Well, they can either lie about it. They've tried to do that and say, "Oh, no, we never wanted to defund the police." Or they can try to change the subject, of course. Now, for a while, it seemed as though Democrats would do just that. They were changing the subject to abortion. In fact, we were told abortion was going to hurt Republicans this November, and, well, that might be true. Here's the thing. We don't make predictions here. We don't pretend to know how the next election is going to go. We're not Karnak. We're not going We're not going to tell you the future. The last thing you come here for is predictions on what's going to happen tomorrow. We're a nightly news and analysis show. We tell you what happened today, why it matters, and put it in context in terms of the broader American principles that we all love. The last thing we're going to do is predict what's going to happen in the future. We don't want to end up on one of those YouTube montages of all the smart people who predicted Donald Trump didn't have a chance against Hillary Clinton. No predictions here. But there may be some common sense evidence that we can see right now to give us an indication of where the abortion conversation sits politically in this country. It might show that abortion won't work in the Democrats' favor as much as the media would like you to believe. Now, just take a look at these three ghoulish answers from three prominent Democrats who are running right now in the midterm elections. And these answers that they gave, this all happened in the last 48 hours, when they were merely asked where they would draw the line on abortion on demand. Now, here's Stacey Abrams. She's a candidate for governor in Georgia.
Were you to become governor, where would you draw the line? 15 weeks, viability, 36 weeks? What's the limit?
What I've always said is that abortion is a medical decision that should be made by a doctor and the woman, and that the point of viability as determined by a doctor should always take into consideration the life and health of a woman. That should be the standard.
And here's Mandela Barnes running for Senate in Wisconsin.
Do you support a woman being allowed to have an abortion up until birth?
Well, I'll tell you, that's a decision that should be made between a woman and her doctor. I don't have the medical credentials to make that decision.
I mean, is that a yes or no, though?
But I think most members of Congress don't have the medical credentials to make that decision.
A lot of people are going to say you, by not saying yes or no, means that you are open to abortion up until birth.
My answer to that is I'm not a medical professional, and neither are most people who make this decision.
Well, are you starting to get the picture that they're all speaking from the same script? Here's Katie Hobbs running for governor of Arizona.
Look, abortion is a very personal decision that belongs between a woman and her doctor. The government and politicians don't belong in that decision. We need to let doctors perform the care that they are trained and take an oath to perform.
So if an Arizona voter were to conclude from your previous answer that you do not favor any specific week limit on abortion, would they be correct?
I support leaving the decision between a woman and her doctor and leaving politicians entirely out of it.
Wow, it's disturbing. And it's also way outside the mainstream of American thought. Yeah, a recent poll showed that 72% of Americans believe in a limitation on abortion after 15 weeks. 15 weeks. That also happens to be the exact terms of the law passed in Mississippi that was the basis of the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade last June. Now, it's possible that abortion will be a game-changing issue. Republicans could be electorally harmed, devastated, in fact, now that voters will have a say in their state's abortion laws. That might happen. But let me just say this. If overturning the evil of Roe v. Wade means that Mitch McConnell is denied the title of majority leader in the Senate for a couple more years, I'll take that. I suspect most pro-life voters would. Our policy positions are rooted in something deeper than maintaining political power. But as Americans see exactly how extreme and inhumane the dogmatic abortion agenda is for Democrats like these three candidates, I suspect they'll embrace the idea that California and New York might go all in on infanticide, but no thank you very much in Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin. Maybe, just maybe, the abortion issue will help Republicans and not hurt them. Maybe all the experts who assured us that Donald Trump didn't stand a chance against Hillary Clinton might be just as brilliant in their predictions on this one.